It's a little warmer in here. Sorry about that. Some of you don't care, right? It's a little warmer in here. We only got one air conditioner running in this whole building. That one up there on that side. So the one air conditioner in the back quit on us. And this one this morning, John, this one this morning quit. Brad's looking into it, see. So that's wonderful. The summer's been really hot. It's kind of taxed everybody's air conditioner, hadn't it? But I think we can handle it. I mean, you know, Jesus never had an air conditioner on the cross, so we'll be all right, right? I am going to take my jacket off. Thinking of that. He didn't have a jacket on either on the cross, or a tie. But anyway, so we're gonna be we're in number 12 on our lesson. You got all 3 pages. I don't know if we're gonna get through all 3 pages today. Oh, you have a bet going? Oh my goodness! Do I get anything if I get it done in 45 minutes? There's a lot here, but this all goes together, and I couldn't decide where I wanted to stop it. So I thought I'm just going to give it all to you, and if we only get so far in the lesson today, then we will just stop, draw a line, and keep going next week, right? So this is in our series on the subject of reaching your community for Christ, and now we've talked about, for the last several weeks, we've talked about our personal character building, and I hope it's helped you, and I hope you've thought about it. That's what we wanted to do. Someone came to me this week and said, for the first time in their life, they were able to witness to someone, and they said they understood what it felt like. You know, it was amazing. Just all of a sudden had an opportunity to witness for Christ, and said, now I get what you're talking about. First time in his life, and I'm hoping that that's happening to a lot of you. When Jesus called his 12 disciples, he told them he would make them fishers of men. It's an interesting choice of analogies. Fishing is a learned skill. Did you know that? You don't just drown worms. I mean, I do, but it takes more than patience and a fishing pole. You know, my father used to take me fishing. His fishing skill wasn't much better than mine. We always ended up drowning worms. We'd get the best bait. We'd buy good fishing tackle, but it just seemed that we couldn't catch anything. I'd stand on a pier right next to someone else. They'd be catching one fish after another. I couldn't seem to land anything. In the church I pastored before, one of the men in our church was actually he was a salesman for a fishing lure company out of Chicago, and he made his own fishing lures, and he lived on the lake, and he said to me, look, he heard me say these kinds of things. He said, you come out, bring your boys out. He said, I'll teach you how to fish. And he said, you're going to go out on my boat, and he said, I guarantee you, when we go back into the land, that you're going to have some fish. Okay. We did not. He could fish right beside me. I mean, I've caught fish, but I'm just not that great. My favorite story, we took a family vacation one year, and we took our van, our hippie van, hooked it up to our little tiny camper. It was 7 of us in the family, you know, and we had this little camper that had a bunk bed and another bunk bed. You know, the dining thing turned into a double, and there was a double on top, and there was a bed back here in the aisleway, and the girls all slept in there, and Dad and I slept in the hippie van. We took a trip around Lake Erie, and I remember getting to this one spot, and they had this pier. I don't know if you've ever been in that area. It's on the Canadian side. There's this pier that went out, they say, a quarter mile into Lake Erie. And, you know, no, it's just cement, just a cement pier. And I walked out there. These guys are catching fish and smacking them on the cement and throwing them back in the water. So there's all these dead fish floating around, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? They said, well, these are called sheepheads, and we don't like them. We're looking for another kind of fish. I'm like, dude, you're catching fish and killing them. Why? Well, because they keep getting on our line, and we don't want them. We want these other kind of fish. I'm like, listen, I'll be right back. I went and got a 5-gallon bucket. I said, is there a reason you guys can't eat these? He said, no, they taste like catfish. I'm like, well, I like catfish. I'm good with it. So I took a 5-gallon bucket out there, and I said, fill up my bucket. And I'm out there, and I started catching. I probably caught 5 or 6. Well, my mom, she's used to Dad and I going out fishing and not having any fish. So she'd stuck fish sticks in the freezer of the little camper. And when we come back, she's like, children, have you any meat? You know what Jesus said, you got any fish? And she's making these fish sticks, and that time I got her good. Because I said, here's a 5-gallon bucket worth of fish. I thought I got her good. She said, oh, you caught it, you clean them. That was not so fun. But anyway, I found out something. Fishing, there's all kinds of different, and some of you guys, anybody here a good fisherman? Anybody here like to fish? You're a fisherman. Brad, you probably are, right? You're a good fisherman. So. More hunting than fishing. But John, you like to fish? You never do it? Yeah. Anybody? Mike, you a good fisherman? So. You catch them anyway. How about you? You guys fish?
We may not start, but it's not because of me.
Yeah. How about you, Steve? You fish? No, never fish. Howard, you a fisherman?
I have.
John, you a fisherman? He's a fisherman. Here's a pro right here. John's pro probably. Kim, do you fish? You don't fish? He's looking at me like, you don't fish? Tony, are you a fisherman? No? Anybody in here besides John, a fisherman? Okay. So John maybe could say, do you fly fish or you just, no, you don't fly fish. Have you ever been fly fishing? And I think I could get into that because, you just flip the fly back and forth across the water and you reel it in and flip it back again. I mean, I could get into that. But going out there, dropping a line and just sitting there and waiting, I don't know, I got ADD or something. I get bored. I was like, really? Why do people do this? I mean, I enjoy the sun, I enjoy the water, but wow. But it's about how you pull it. It's about how you make that little lure jump, and that's what this one guy was telling me. You see, it's the kind of fly you pick, it's the kind of bait you pick, it's the kind of size hook you get. All of that is critical if you're going to be a good fisherman. You got to learn all those things. Fishing for men is just as much a skill learned as fishing for fish. People think, well, look, I'm a Christian. No. If I took a poll here today and I said, and I'm not going to do this, but I asked you, how many of you have led someone to Jesus Christ? Someone. Just one person. If I took a poll, I'm not going to have you raise your hand and everything, but I'm going to guess that over half of you have never led anybody to Jesus Christ yourself, personally. And I would get, because it's typical, and I would guess that of the 50% of you that have, most of you would have led somebody to Christ under 12. A child, they're easier to talk to. Very few of you have ever led an adult to Christ. That should tell you something. And I'm going to tell you that that's not in just this church. That's in every congregation I've ever preached in, every place I've ever been. The largest percentage of the congregation has never, ever brought someone to Jesus Christ. And if they have, it may be 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 at the most. Billy Sunday, they say, won 1 million people to Christ in his lifetime. 1 million. It was in the, believe it in Who's Who. It's written in Who's Who. I saw the book and saw the little clip on it. You think about that many people lead to Christ. You say, well, a preacher should lead a lot of people to Christ, and that's true. But I think every one of us should be fishers of men, right? In the early church, God added to the church and multiplied because the people wanted to fish for men. And Jesus said, you follow me, to his disciples, and I'm going to make you fishers of men. I'm going to teach you how to do it. I think it's important for you to think about that, learning. So we're going to talk about a few things here about what it means to fish for men. And the first thing I want to talk about is determining the lure. The lure is chosen based on the appetite of the fish a lot of times. So it is with fishing for men. You must determine the lure by understanding the people. Everyone learns by building upon what they already know. When trying to win someone to Christ, you must remember this fact. You will find there is no set approach to any given individual because everyone comes from a different background with a different worldview. Each worldview is determined by a different factor. When I preach a message every Sunday morning, I'm going to tell you that different ones of you, if I at the end of the service, if I had you as you walked out, give me a summary of what I preached on, I would have almost as many different sermons as there are people in here. Because you're all learning things based on what you know and where you're at, and you're all at different places in your heart. And I can say something over and over and over and over and over again, 20 years, and then someone will come and say, well, so-and-so said this, and I got it. I'm like, I've been saying that for a long time. Well, why didn't you get it when I said it? Because the way I said it or the illustrations I used did not resonate with you. Does that make sense? And the same is true. Sometimes you can talk to someone you love, you care about, and you're like over and over, and then someone will come in and boom, they capture their heart, and you're like, I've been saying that. Maybe your kids or something, over and over and over again, and they didn't get it. It's like, well, how did that person get their ear? Because at that point in their life, that illustration or that idea became real to them because of where they were at in their life at that time. Understand that that's the way people are. So let's consider the factors. There's the nationality factor. There are all kinds of races that generally fall into three categories. You have the children of Shem, the children of Ham, the children of Japheth. All the children of Shem, these are the three sons of Noah. Okay? So every race on the earth is based upon those three. Every race on the earth is connected. You understand? We're all cousins. Everyone, the Bible says, is one blood. So I have some black friends. I call them cuz when I see them, just for fun. But the truth is, we're all related through Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Every one of us. There's not some sub-race or master race. I mean, that's what Hitler thought. That's not true, right? So you have the children of Shem, which are Middle East and Far East. Now, maybe you may not be aware of this, but the Middle East, like you have, the Middle East, you have a mix. The Middle East is really a melting pot of the European races of Japheth, Ham, and Shem. The Jewish people are Shemites, which are the descendants of Shem. So are the Chinese, by the way. The Chinese, the Japanese, the Indian races, and the Jewish race are all from Shem. It's fascinating when you read back to Genesis. Let's go back to Genesis and look at the story here. Maybe it'll help you understand a little bit. Let's see, in Genesis chapter 9 is where we're going to go. The children of Ham are all the Negroid races, the African, the black races. Those are the children of Ham. You'll find a lot of the Aborigines that are the children of Ham. And the Japheth is the European races, okay? So you have the white-skinned folks, Scandinavian, English, Scottish, Irish. Most of us in here are Scottish and Irish and English, and that's our background. You'll find Japhethites in the Middle East. You'll find Shemites in the Middle East. You'll find Hamites in the Middle East. Egypt is Hamite. Africa is Hamites. Okay? All of them are descendants of Ham. They have we'll have different facial features, and a different mental makeup sometimes. The way we approach things, the way we look at things are different because of our separate cultures. So in Genesis chapter 9, this is interesting. Verse 25 said, verse 24 said, Noah woke from his wine. I won't get into all this. I don't have time. But I just want you to see the blessings. In verse 25, he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. Now, Canaan was cursed. Canaan was a Hamite. And there were some old Southern preachers that preached that the slaves in America were slaves in America because of this verse. And there are people still in the South that believe that, and they're wrong. Black races were not cursed. Hamites were not cursed. Only the Canaanites, who were sons of Ham, were cursed. And if you remember right, what land did God give to Israel? Canaan. Who was in Canaan? Canaanites. So that curse was already taken care of when Israel came in and took over that land, right? So the slavery that goes on in the world is not about God's curse. And the fact is, there are as many white slaves as there are black slaves. And I know you're not supposed to say this stuff, but if you've been around me long enough, you're going to say, I'm going to tell you what I believe. And I think that's true, and I think that helps us, just to be honest. I'm upset about some of the bad slavery that's happened in the world that still is going on in our world. There's a lot of it still going on, and it really transcends races. It's not just one race that's had trouble with that. In America, there was a whole lot of problems with European races dominating black races, but there was also good Europeans that just hired. They just hired people and took care of them of a different race. It still goes on today. Huh? People will hire illegals and pay them peanuts. And in my opinion, that's still slavery. Huh? Okay, so now that we've said that, amen. Verse 26 said, and he says, blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. So Canaan's going to be the servant of Shem. Well, we already see that. It happened. Gibeonites and Hittites and the Hivites, they're the servants of Shem. We see that through the Old Testament. Verse 27, God shall enlarge Japheth. God shall enlarge Japheth. The thing about that, who's Japheth? The Europeans. God's going to enlarge them. Have the Europeans been enlarged? They have been, haven't they? They've dominated the world scene, right? Pretty much. And he shall dwell in the tents of Shem. Let me ask you something. How many of you have a TV in your home? Okay, so how many of you know the name that's on your TV? What is it? Samsung? Samsung? All right. Anybody else? What's the name of your? Huh? Sony? Anybody else? LG? Yeah? Okay, do you know that most of all of the electronics that we enjoy is made in China? Do you know that when you walk into the store and you buy things, most of it's made in China? My wife bought something online. Just got it in yesterday. And she's, boy, I like this. I want to get more of these. And she looked at the label and it said, made in China. Your clothes, a lot of your clothes, made in China. So what's wrong with us? We're all messed up. No. That's actually what God said was going to happen. Japheth was going to dwell in the tents of Shem. You want to talk about the world banking system? Okay, so you guys all have debit cards and all that kind of stuff, right? And the cash and all that. Okay, so Rothschild and all them, you know what they are? The Jews, right? Jewish people, they're Shemites, run the world banking system. Yeah? It's Genesis chapter 9. There it is. We're going to dwell in the tents of Shem. That's what it means. Isn't that interesting? And then it says, and Canaan shall be his servant. And not much about Ham, or what Ham's going to do. But that was a blessing and a curse that was given way back then. I want to tell you something. Stop sweating over everything being made in China. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. God said that's the way it would be, and that's the way it's going to be. We go to Job, the book of Job. It's interesting. In the back, at the end of Job, I did some research on him, trying to figure out who he was and where he was placed and everything. And the last chapter of the book of Job talks about his second family. And he has one daughter that's named Keziah. And I'm like, okay, so where did he get this name Keziah? Where did that come from? Because back then, names meant something. They would pick a name based on something. And you probably heard about the Indian that his son came to him and said, Dad, he's an American Indian. He says, Dad, how do you pick my name? And the Indian said, the chief said, every when a child is born, We look out the teepee, the door of the teepee, and the first thing we see, that is what your name is. Why do you ask, puking dog? No. But anyway, some of you didn't get that. Okay. Back then, they would pick names for people based on something very important and significant. So I looked at Job. Why did he name his daughter Keziah? Well, Keziah is actually a Hebraic form of saying cassia. Cassia is a name of a tree in China that grows only in the Far East. Only in the Far East. So Job, the wealthiest man during his time, did trading in China back then. And he saw this tree, or somebody saw this tree or brought it back to him, and he thought it so beautiful that he named one of his daughters after that tree that only grows in China. Isn't that interesting? So even back then, commerce was fomenting in the Far East, if I could say it that way. So there are many different shades of these three divisions, each having its own perspective. Its own thought pattern is evidenced by the construction of different languages. Entire cultures can sometimes be cut off from other cultures due to topography or transportation. In Papua New Guinea, in a very few miles, there's over 800 different complete language groups, complete different structures, because the mountain territories, these little tribes will be in these little mountain territories, and they'll completely construct their own culture and their own tribe, their own system, their own language that are completely unrelated to each other. It's pretty interesting. Sometimes these languages are unique to them. They've formed over generations without any contact from outside sources. How many of you guys have read the book, The Peace Child? Anybody read that? I recommend it. If you like to read books, look it up on Amazon. It's called The Peace Child. Don Richardson, I think, is the one that wrote it. And he went into this, I think it was in the Amazon, if I remember right, this jungle in the Amazon, and met this tribe of people, and they tried to talk to them about Jesus, and they just did not understand who Jesus was or what it was all about. One day, he was in the tribe. He just tried to live in the tribe, trying to learn their culture. One day, as he was there, big fanfare, something happened. I can't remember exactly how the story went, but a neighboring tribe, a tribe they had been fighting with, comes in with great fanfare, comes into the tribe, in the center of the tribe. There's a lot of hooping and hollering and drum beating and so on. And they came right to the chief's hut, and they brought a baby, a very, very little baby, into up to the chief. And they knelt down before him and presented him to him. And the chief, with great fanfare, accepted the baby, gave it to his wife, and they began to take care of that baby. And Richardson starts asking what is going on. Well, they had in their culture this thing called the peace child. And if two warring tribes decided to make peace with each other, the chief's son, firstborn son, would be given to the other tribe to be raised by the other tribe as their own, so that, it's all in this book, so that if that tribe could never, ever, ever fight against this tribe, because the chief's son is a member of that tribe. Isn't that cool? And Don Richardson, he about came out of his skin, because, of course, you get the comparison to Jesus, the chief's son, given to us to be part of and he took that story, and then they began to understand Jesus, because he understood their culture, learned their culture, and was able to connect with them. You get what I'm saying? I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you that the culture is changing around us. Now, you can ignore it, and you can decide it's not, or you can say, I'm not going to change anything. But the truth is, the culture is changing, and we've got to figure out how to reach them. When I first became a youth pastor, a long time ago, several decades ago, some of the things that we dealt with were completely different than the things we deal with today. When I was a youth pastor in 1984, nobody had cell phones. The internet was just a barely a brand new thing. Kids didn't have access to it. What's changed is Well, take this for example. Uh, I remember thinking that anyone that was homosexual was going to hell, and there was no hope for them. I remember thinking that Romans 1 taught, and I would read the Bible, and my understanding of Romans 1 was, when God turns you over to a reprobate mind, you're done. You can never go to heaven. Anybody else ever thought that at one time? You remember that? Okay. I don't think that anymore. Why? Because I found out something. Because in 1984, I didn't know anybody that was homosexual. All I knew about was that wicked place called San Francisco. That was light years away, no connection to me at all. And boy, I could burn them all to hell. It wasn't a problem because I didn't know anybody. But now in the last couple of years, I've had to sit down with more than one 12, 13-year-old girl and explain to them how they're not weird, they're not lesbian, just because the world's saying they are. It makes you angry, makes you want to shoot somebody, but the truth is that because of the world we live in, these kids have access to information that's messing with their heads. And why there's an onslaught of anxiety and all those kinds of things. Charlene, I'm going to pick on Landon for a second. He and I had a conversation Friday night. And he's not around anymore. I think he's in the youth thing, so we won't tell him what I just said. But his conversation, I told him, Landon, I said, you really need to get a YouTube channel. Because the way he articulates, he's brilliant. And the way he articulates things is, you live with him, and it probably drives you up a wall. But it's like, but honestly, you've done a good job, Charlene, in not making him self-conscious, and you've raised him well, and my hat's off to you. He's a confident young man, really, and very articulate. And I told him, I said, what you're saying to me are things the world needs to hear. And I want you to know that. So we're talking, and I was talking to him and Zach, my son Zach, about the message this morning, what I'm going to be preaching, because I was Friday night, I'm kicking stuff around trying to think of it. And Zach walks away, and Landon says to me, I think I get what you're saying, but he said, I don't think you're articulating it well. I'm like, all right. Help me here. And he was not being disrespectful at all. Very, very respectful. So don't get on him about it. But he starts telling me, from his perspective, how to articulate what I was trying to get across. And I'm like, yeah. So I'm just not going to tell anybody I stole that from you. I'm just going to use it Sunday morning. There, I'm confessing. I actually did completely reshape my approach on how I'm going to present it this morning based on what he told me. Because what happened here, what I'm telling you is this. He's got his finger pulse on his age group. He knows. He's talking to kids and things, and he's telling me he works at McDonald's, and he's telling me how many people he's been witnessing to, and the things, the conversations he's having with these other people, and how he's trying to get through to them. I'm like, God bless you. You're witnessing more than a lot of people that are older than you. It just blows my mind. But God's given him something really good inside, and I'm just blessed to be part of that, a little small part of that. But the point I was trying to make was, here's a young man, 17, and when I've been doing this for since Noah got off the ark, It's not, I have to listen to him. Okay, so you're not getting through to me. This is how you get through to me, is what he's telling me. You get what I'm saying here? We've got to, when we're trying to reach people, we've got to find out where they're coming from. Because they're not going to connect with everything. And honestly, these different races, there are different makeups and mentalities and ideas. Most of the time, we get angry. When you talk to people about Black Lives Matter, if I say Black Lives Matter, right now it's like gaslighting, or it's like throwing gas. Most of us here are like, of course we care. Okay. What we need to do as Christians is stop yelling and screaming and listen to what's being said. See, when that flipped for me was, I was talking to a friend of mine, some of you guys know him, Willie Wilson. And he says to me, I believe in reparations. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to vote for you if you believe in reparations. I told him that. I said, he wanted me to do something down here for him and help him build a coalition down here. And I said to him and some of his compatriots, I said, look, I'm not going to help you build a political coalition around reparations. If you guys know what I'm talking about. So I'm not going to do that. I don't believe that. I can't get behind that. He and I have had multiple conversations on the subject. And I still don't believe in reparations. If you don't know what it is, it's not that big a deal. What it is they think there's certain people that think that we should pay money to every kid who is a descendant of someone who had been a slave. Well, I'm a descendant of Irish slaves, so give them to me too. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, I don't agree with that. But I say, well, what do you? Here's a well thought of man, a well respected man, a wealthy man. And he believes, and a Christian man, and he believes this. So I'm like, why do you believe this? Well, it's interesting. I can never reach someone that believes that unless I listen to them. Try to find out why they believe what they believe. What I've noticed in the last couple of years is that there is this whole crowd, and I'm clear off my notes, but there's somebody wins a bet. There is a whole crowd of people in our world today that doesn't think like me. I don't understand. I don't get it. They talk about the percentages of people that are against Biden, and they're talking that up. It's like 80% of the country thinks he's doing a bad job. Have you ever stopped and wondered who the 20% are? Who thinks Biden's doing a good job? There's 20%. When you say 80% think he's doing a bad job, there's 20% that say, rah, rah, rah. Go get him. And you see some of them on Facebook sometimes. I saw someone post it the other day that they were like the squad, AOC, she's my kind of woman. I'm like, really? Well, she got elected somehow. Somebody thinks she's awesome. I cannot relate to their line of thinking. Oh, Biden has done such a wonderful job in reducing our gas down to $4. Dude, 2 years ago, it was under $2. Wow, that's not wonderful that it's down to $4. That's horrible. And I don't understand what's wrong with people that think differently than me. So what I do typically as a human is I say, you guys are idiots, and walk away. Can I say to you that some of those idiots, listen to this, are dying and going to hell? And that's really what I need to be concerned about. So I've got to find out, why are they thinking the way they're thinking? If I'm going to reach them. I don't have to agree with them, but I have to be respectful. we had a pretty aggressive argument with a group in Charleston some time ago about prayer in the public forum. And the one professor from EIU looked at me and he said, "This is the first time I've ever been in a discussion with someone on your side of the aisle. First time." And he said, "I appreciate it." He and I walked away diametrically opposed in our theological positions, completely opposite, but we both walked away with a mutual respect for each other. Hey, we can actually talk about this. In our country, what's happened is and I think the churches have helped with this, we have become violent in our opposition to those who are on the other side of whatever political position, and we have laid down our opportunity of winning them to Christ. We have to be careful with that. Someone said to me the other day, "I have a friend that is a Democrat that I want to bring to church, but I'm afraid to." And it smote me in my heart because I thought, eesh. Probably from California, yeah. Can't reach them if we cut their ears off, right? There's the gender factor. The male and female look at things from two different perspectives. I know this is a news flash. You guys didn't know that before, did you? We have two different perspectives. Okay, women typically have less problems with concept of faith than men do. Honestly, women have less trouble with trust and faith than men do. Ladies, I'm just going to tell you, guys don't trust and believe anything. We'll pretend we do, but we don't. Women have more of ability. They tend to place a higher value on emotional connection than a man does. Man doesn't typically care much about an emotional connection. Interested in how this thing feels. How does this feel? What you're saying to me, how does it feel? Does it feel right? That's a woman. Men don't do that. Men will typically require more of an understanding of the mechanics of salvation. They tend to place a higher value on a physical connection, interested in how it works, not how it feels. Make me understand this. Show me the nuts and bolts of it. That's typically how it goes. Additional genders. I added this in. Of course we know they don't exist. You've heard me talk before, right? But the conversation and understanding of the thought process of the LGBTQ community is important if we're going to reach them. I'm going to tell you something. They're confused. They're depressed. They're trying to figure out how they fit in. One of their biggest problems is feeling that they are not normal. So I'm going to tell you something. I've worked on this with young people, a lot of young people, and it's going to increase. Because activism in our world, they're trying, homosexuals cannot reproduce, and so they have to recruit. Okay? So they are recruiting at the 12 and 13-year-old level. Believe it or not, when I was younger, it was mostly the men working with men, that which is unseemly in Romans chapter 1 is how it describes it. And we didn't talk much about the lesbian culture. But today, the lesbian culture is what is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. It's really, really getting hard. And they are activists in our public schools. Activists. And they're going after 12-year-old girls. They've always gone after 12-year-old girls. Do you guys remember the rock group KISS? Anybody remember that group? Okay. I hope none of you liked them, but anyway, you probably still do. KISS, does anyone know what KISS stands for? Have you noticed it's K period, I period, S period, S period? Did you notice that? Look at how it's written. It's always K period, I period, S period, S period. That's KISS. Knights in Satan's Service is what it stands for. Now, KISS, back in the day, developed a whole club for 12-year-olds. And they called it Kids in Satan's Service. They spent a whole thing on it. 12-year-olds. Why? Why 12-year-olds? Because right then, right at that age, those young girls are trying to figure out who they are. And this is why the lesbians are going after 12-year-old girls. And they're in our public schools, they're going after them. I'm telling you this, I have 3 that I know of in my school, in our school this year, that have had this trouble in a Christian school. 2 of them I've gotten a chance to talk to, and they're doing better. The other one I'm praying for a chance. What happens is that a 12-year-old girl likes boys. She matures faster than boys do. Girls mature faster. So at 12, you think about it, my mother was married at 16. At 12, they're not far from marriageable age. Okay? So, 12-year-old boy, he ain't anywhere close. I mean, he's still throwing rocks at her, thinking that'll get her attention, make her like him. Seriously, that's the way a 12-year-old boy thinks. If I just throw a rock at her, she'll notice me, and then she'll like me. Dude, you're an idiot. Every 12-year-old boy I know is a jerk to a girl. They don't know what to do. They don't know how. It's not, you're still playing, and why is she different now? I mean, we've always had fun. Why is she getting weird? So the 12-year-old girls in that age group, they start thinking, okay, so boys are weird. I don't like boys at all. Every boy I know is stupid. And they like girls. And you'll see, if you ladies think back on your junior high years, you'll remember that's when you have bonding with other girls a lot. There's a lot more girl-girl bonding during the junior high years. And that's also when their mean girls clubs develop, all that, the cliques and all that kind of stuff. Why? Because there is this emotional need to connect. A 12-year-old girl. So what's happening, because back in the day, everybody knew. You see a couple girls, 12-year-old girls walking down the sidewalk holding hands. Nobody thought anything about it. Why? Because all girls did that. That connection, that contact. Girls would hold hands with girls and hug other girls, and that just was a thing. But now, if you hold a girl's hand, someone will say to you, you need to explore that side of yourself. At 12. At 12, they don't even know what it means to be gay. But they're getting propaganda, and they're saying, boy. So what's happened to some of these young ladies I've had the opportunity to talk to is they're confused. They know they like guys, but they know they like girls better. They're being told that they're probably lesbian. And so they think, well, that's what I am. Anxiety is going through the roof because something's wrong. One young lady recently said, "Or Mom, I thought there was something wrong with me." Because it doesn't, the world's telling me this is okay and this is what I'm supposed to do, and I don't really like this about myself. I've told these young ladies, listen to me, you're normal. You like girls better because girls are better at 12. And it's okay to have friends that are girls at 12. And it's okay to hold a girl's hand at 12. You're not a lesbian. And they'll walk out and their faces, the tears will go away. And the faces will be like, oh, just give it some time. Someday you're going to meet a man and you'll fall in love with him and it'll be okay. And he'll still be a jerk. But you'll learn how to deal with it. Okay? Right? Am I right? It's true, right? Okay. So, what I'm saying, we got through page 1. What I'm saying is there are factors that we need to consider when we're trying to reach these people. We need to understand where they're coming from. And I'm telling you, you've got to spend some time thinking and trying to process it. And don't just dismiss this culture as, boy, these guys are idiots. Black Lives Matter is idiots. Democrats are idiots. We can't do that. Half of our country believes this stuff. Our job is to reach them. How are we going to do that? Understand where they're coming from, understand what's going on in their mind, and you'll be able to connect with them. That's important. Okay? All right, we'll stop. Well, we got through page 1. How's that? Who won? You did?